Famous people and celebrities who passed away in 1970 in the United States. This is the third episode. Before we proceed, please subscribe to our channel to support us. Cassie O'Donnell. She was born in July 1923 and she died in April 1970. Her age was 46 at the time of her death, and the reason for her death was cancer. Cassie O'Donnell was a film actress remembered for her roles in the best years of our lives and They Live by Night, often portraying sensitive and poignant characters. She told a Boston Globe reporter in 1946 that she first became interested in acting at age 14 after seeing Janet Gaynor in A Star is Born while studying acting at Oklahoma City University when she played Juliet in a college production of Romeo and Juliet. She then saved money for a 2-week trip to Hollywood, where she hoped to begin a movie career. During her brief trip to Hollywood, an agent of Samuel Goldwyn spotted her at a drugstore. Although a screen test revealed her thick Southern accent, Goldwyn was impressed with her appearance and put her under contract. He sent her for acting and diction lessons and had her cast in local plays, including the Pasadena Playhouse dramatization of Little Woman. She later changed her name to Cassie after the female protagonist in Wuthering Heights. She then changed her last name to O'Donnell, as recommended by Goldwyn's wife, who claimed that audiences loved actors with Irish last names. Ed Begley. He was born in March 1901 and he died in April 1970. His age was 69 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was heart attack. Ed Begley was an American actor of theater, radio, film, and television. He won an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for his performance in the film Sweet Bird of Youth in 1962 and appeared in such classics as 12 Angry Men in 1957, Odds Against Tomorrow in 1959, and The Unsinkable Molly Brown in 1964. He was nominated for an Emmy Award for his portrayal of Matthew Harrison Brady in a television adaptation of Inherit the Wind. He is the father of the actor and environmental activist Ed Begley Jr. Begley began his career as a Broadway and radio actor while in his teens. He later acted in roles as Sergeant O'Hara in the radio show The Fat Man. His radio work included Stroke of Fate and appeared as Charlie Chan, among other roles. He also starred in the 1950s radio program Richard Diamond, Private Detective, playing Lieutenant Walter Levinson, head of homicide at the 5th Precinct, Manhattan. He was elected a member of the Lambs in 1943. In the late 1940s, he began appearing regularly in supporting film roles. Gypsy Rose Lee. She was born in January 1911 and she died in April 1970. Her age was 59 at the time of her death, and the reason for her death was lung cancer. She was a legendary burlesque performer, actress, and author whose life inspired the Broadway musical Gypsy, making her one of the entertainment's most iconic figures. Her singing and dancing talents were insufficient to sustain the act without Jude. Eventually, it became apparent that she could make money in burlesque, which earned her legendary status as an elegant and witty striptease artist. Initially, her act was propelled forward when a shoulder strap on one of her gowns gave way, causing her dress to fall to her feet despite her efforts to cover herself. Encouraged by the audience's response, she went on to make the trick the focus of her performance. Her innovations were an almost casual stripping style compared to bump and grin styles of most burlesque strippers. She emphasized the tease in striptease, and she brought a sharp sense of humor into her act as well. She became as famous for her on-stage wit as for her stripping style, and changing her stage name to Gypsy Rose Lee, she became one of the biggest stars of Minsky's burlesque, where she performed for 4 years. Glenn Tryon. He was born in August 1898 and he died in April 1970. His age was 71 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. Glenn Tryon was a comedic actor and filmmaker who transitioned from silent films to early talkies, working in Hollywood as a writer and director in later years. He appeared in more than 60 films between 1923 and 1951. He was born as Glenn Monroe Kunkel on August 2, 1898, in Julietta, Idaho. Tryon was married to actress Jane Fraze from 1942 to 1947, and they had one son, Timothy Tryon. Glenn was also married to actress Lillian Hall. Tryon died on April 18, 1970, in Orlando, Florida, at the age of 71. Some of his works are Her Dangerous Path in 1923, Mother's Joy in 1923, Battling Orioles in 1924, The White Sheep in 1924. Heinrich Brüning. He was born in November 1885 and he died in March 1970. His age was 84 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. Heinrich Brüning was a German Center Party politician and academic who served as the Chancellor of Germany during the Weimar Republic from 1930 to 1932. A political scientist and Christian social activist, he entered politics in the 1920s and was elected to the Reichstag in 1924. In 1930, he was appointed interim chancellor. Just as the Great Depression took hold, his austerity policies in response were unpopular, with most of the Reichstag opposed, so he governed by emergency decrees issued by the president, Paul von Hindenburg, overriding the Reichstag. This lasted until May 1932, when his land distribution policy offended Hindenburg, who refused to issue any more decrees. Brüning resigned in response to the refusal. After Hitler took power, Brüning fled Germany in 1934. He eventually settled in the United States from 1937 to 1952. He was a professor at Harvard University. He returned to Germany in 1951 to teach at the University of Cologne, but again moved to the United States in 1955 and lived out his days in retirement in Vermont. Sam Shepard. He was born in December 1923 and he died in April 1970. His age was 46 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was liver failure. Sam Shepard was an American osteopath. He was convicted in the 1954 murder of his pregnant wife, Marilyn Reese Shepard, but the conviction was eventually overturned by the United States Supreme Court, which cited a carnival atmosphere at the trial. Shepard was acquitted at a retrial in 1966. Shepard completed his interim and a residency in neurosurgery in Los Angeles County General Hospital. He married Marilyn Reese on February 21, 1945 in Hollywood, California. A few years later, he returned to Ohio and joined his father's growing medical practice at Bayview Hospital. On the night of Saturday, July 3, 1954, Shepard and Marilyn were entertaining neighbors at their lakefront home, which was eventually demolished in 1993. While they were watching the movie Strange Holiday, Shepard fell asleep on the daybed in the living room. Marilyn walked the neighbors out in the early morning hours of July 4, 1954, Marilyn Shepard was bludgeoned to death in her bed with an unknown instrument. The bed was covered with blood, spatter, and drops of blood were found on floors throughout the house. Ripper Collins. He was born in March 1904 and he died in April 1970. His age was 66 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. Ripper Collins was an American professional baseball player, coach, and scout. He played in Major League Baseball as a first baseman for the St. Louis Cardinals, Chicago Club, and the Pittsburgh Pirates. A switch hitter who threw left-handed, Collins was listed as 5 feet 9 inches tall and weighed 165 pounds, around 75 kilograms. During his playing days, despite his stature, he was a power hitter who in 1934 co-led the National League with 35 home runs. The nickname Ripper developed during an on-field incident that occurred when Jimmy was a young player. A ball rocketed off his bat and struck a nail protruding from the outfield fence. It caused the cover to partially tear. When asked who hit the ball, the retrieving outfielder saw the ball hanging and said it was the Ripper. Born in Altoona, Pennsylvania, Collins grew up in nearby Nanty Glo, where he was a standout in sandlot baseball. In his youth, he started his minor league baseball career in 1923, playing in various leagues for 8 seasons. Thanks for watching the video. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Have a nice day.